Hi and welcome to the Sewing Studio. I'm Anna and in this video I am going to talk you through the Janome M100 QDC. I'm going to show you its features and functions, talk you through what comes in the box, show you how to thread it, do some sewing, show you its capabilities, and then talk a bit about warranty and the support that you get with us here at the Sewing Studio. So we split all of those into chapters, so if there's a specific section that you want to see, just head straight over to there. So the M100 QDC is a computerised machine and the Q stands for a quilting edition. Now what that means is that it comes as standard with an extension table and some extra feet that are predominantly used for quilting, but they're also really good for other things as well, and I'll talk you through that when we get to the sewing section. It's a standard size machine, so you've got 6 inches of space to the right of the needle, and you'll find 100 different stitch options. You've got direct press to your most commonly used ones here, so your standard straight stitch, a zigzag, blind hem and a buttonhole. And then the rest of them are all on a handy stitch card that sits on the top of the machine there. And those are selected with the up and down arrows on there. You can change the width and the length of the stitches over here. And the maximum stitch width on this machine is 7mm and the maximum length is 5mm. Now it's a computerised machine, so it comes with a foot pedal. You don't have to use that. There is a start-stop button. And you can also control your speed. And the top speed on this machine is 820 stitches per minute. You've also got your reverse button, locking stitch, needle up, needle down, and your automatic thread cutter. There's also a handy manual cutter just on the side there. The presser foot has an extra high lift so you can get any bulky items in underneath, and you're able to adjust the pressure that's on the presser foot. The feed dogs are Janome Superior 7-piece feed dogs. That means there's more elements to it to help grab hold of the fabric and feed it nice and controlled and consistently. You can also drop those feed dogs for any free motion work. It's got a built-in needle threader and a top-loading bobbin. So you just simply drop that in, thread it round this easy set, and there's no need to draw the bobbin thread up. You can just start sewing. It's got a free arm, so I'll pop this box off, and there's your free arm for sewing hems and cuffs and things like that. And then there's storage in here for all the feet and accessories. Speaking of which, it comes with the standard foot that's already on the machine, a zipper or piping foot, overcasting, one for blind hem, 2 different types of satin stitch foot, so a closed toe and an open toe, your 1-step buttonhole foot, as well as a 1/4 inch foot, a stitch in the ditch, an open toe free motion, and a walking foot. There's also a range of accessories, and there's the instruction book, an instructional DVD, the foot pedal and the power lead. There's also the extension table that I mentioned. So this just sits on, you pop the accessory tray off, and that sits on the end there, so it gives you a nice working area. And then lastly, it also comes with a hard cover. So this machine weighs around 6.4 kilos, so it's quite transportable. This helps to keep it protected whilst you're out and about, and also for when you're storing it away. So let's get it threaded, show you how to do that, and take a look at some of its capabilities. So threading is super easy. You just pop the spool cap off, put the thread on the spool pin, and then pop the cap back on. You don't want it too tight. This should still spin freely, and it's just to stop it flying off when you're going for it. And there's different sizes of these spool caps depending on the size of spool that you're using. And then you just follow the numbers. So number 1, 2, 3, in the take-up lever number 4, and down to 5, and then 6 is in the very top of the needle there. Now, for the needle threader, it's very important that you make sure this needle's in the right position. And you can do that by dropping the needle down and back up again. And then you can just bring the needle threader down, lay the thread under, pull it back up, and there's your loop that you can pull through. And that's the needle threaded. So to do your bobbin, you just want to pop the cover off, and then you want the tail of thread to the left. So just drop that in, and I usually keep my finger on it, and you're going under that little lip, whoops, right round to the back. And then in the easy set, you've got number 1 is taking you up around there, and number 2, and there's a little cutter that you can cut that off. Pop the cover back on, and that's it, you're ready to sew. So when you first switch the machine on, it will default to the standard straight stitch. So let me bring the stitch chart up a minute. So you can see here 0, 0 is the standard straight stitch. So I'm not using the foot pedal, I'm going to use the start stop button and just show you the different speeds first off. So I'm just going to drop the needle in and make a start. To secure that, I'm just going to keep my finger on the reverse for as far back as I want to go, and then come forward again. So that's on the slow setting. I got to midway, and then up to top speed. And when you're nearing the end, you can keep your finger on the start stop button, and you can see it slows right down, so you can have a nice controlled finish to your seam. And when you let go, it'll just stop. If you want to reverse, you just keep your finger on the button again for as far back as you want to go. You can come forward again if you like, just press start and then stop. So I'm going to trim the threads by pressing the scissor button. It raises the needle, and a little blade for inside just shoots out and trims off those threads. So you can just quite simply take the work out. And then there you have your nice neat straight stitch. That's the top and that's the underneath. Now there is another way that you can secure your stitch rather than doing a reverse, and that's this locking stitch. So what that's going to do is just do 3 stitches on the spot to secure it. So you press that first and then press the start stop button, or put your foot on the foot pedal. And you can see the fabric's not moving, it's just sewing the 3 stitches on the spot, and then you can just carry on. And then when you want to finish, you can just press that one, it will stop sewing, and again do the 3 stitches to secure it. And you can see there it's a much neater end than what you get with reversing. And it's really useful if you're doing something quite decorative or top stitching, anything like that. And you can see the seam is still really secure, it's not going anywhere. Now this button has a second function as well, which is a pattern end. So if you're using one of the decorative stitches, so for instance we've got a row of tulips here, number 80. When you're nearing the end, you can press this button and it will finish a complete pattern, so in this instance a complete tulip, before it stops sewing. So I'll show you what I mean. Now to navigate to these stitches, so as I say it's number 80, you're just changing these up here with these up and down buttons. So I'm going to go up to number 80, and that's already preset a default width and a default length. I'm going to just take it down to midway because the decorative stitches stitch out much nicer there. Let's go up here and I'll show you what I mean with this button. So you could see there this time when I pressed the lock and stitch button, it didn't stop instantly, it carried on sewing, and that's because it's finishing the pattern. And there you go, you've got 3 full tulips. And that's really good when you're nearing the end of your seam, you know, it stops you having to guess or kind of finishing part way through a pattern. It just keeps it nice and consistent and gives a nice professional result. So changing the length and the width of the stitch is very simple with these buttons here. So Let's go back to a zigzag, which is number 6 I can see here. So I want to go back to 0 and then 6 there. Now this will default to what is deemed as a standard width and a standard length for a zigzag. So I'm just going to sew out that one. Now if you're doing some applique or something like that, you might want to have quite a short stitch length on there. So I'm just going to drop that down. Or you might want to go the opposite and have a really, really wide stitch that's quite long. The point is you have the choice with this machine. So you can see that's the standard size. That's reducing the length, which you could go a bit more if you want to, and then making it big and wide. But with the ability to change the stitch in the width, the stitch and the width and the length of a stitch, I'll get there in a minute, you can really tailor it to all your different projects to get the best results on there. They're a really handy feature to have. So let's take a look now at the one-step buttonhole. So we've got the one-step foot, and then we just open that up, pop your button in and close it down tight. And then the buttonhole will be sewn for the size of that button, but a couple of millimeters bigger, so you can get the button actually in and out the buttonhole. And these just snap on and off, so you just push that one back. You can take that out, and then I'm going to use the extra presser lift to slide that under. Just move that needle thread and then snap it into position. And then you want to get this thread under the buttonhole foot, and the easiest way to do that is to drop the presser foot and just do a couple of stitches, raise it up and then pull the fabric through, and you can see that's now under the foot. I'm just going to cut the excess off. Okay, so as I say, there's a few different buttonhole options here. I'm using cotton, so I'm going to just go with the standard buttonhole, which I could navigate to stitch 18, but there is a direct press to it here, so I can just press that one. And you'll see it's telling me to use foot R, which is the one that we've got on there. And this is telling me to bring down the sensor, which is just behind the needle threader. And you want to bring that down as far as it will go. And then pop your fabric underneath, and off you go. And it'll beep to tell you when it's finished. You can cut the threads, and you can see how that's nice and neat on the top and on the bottom. We'll move on to some different types of fabric next. So we'll go to some jersey. So I'm just going to take this needle out and pop a jersey needle in. This machine takes standard needles, so the ones with the flat back. Pop the needle threader, that's that threaded. Now I'm going to pop the standard foot back on. Okay, so we're ready to go. So I have some stretchy t-shirt material here, which actually I've not sewn before, so we will try, let me have a feel. one of the stretch stitches. Let's try the triple straight stitch and see how it performs on that one. So we want to go, it's number 4, so navigate to 0, 4, and then we'll just pop it under. Just secure that. And you can see that's sewn that quite well. There's not too much waviness along there. And you can stretch the fabric with the stitch and the seam is nice and secure. Now, one of the extra feet that comes with this machine is a walking foot. And what these do is these have little teeth on the underside that interlock with the teeth of the feed dogs. And this is really good. I mean, it's marketed and made for quilting, but it is actually really good for stretch fabric, slippy fabrics and things like that, because it's feeding the top layer consistently with the bottom layer. So I'm just going to pop that on and show you. There it goes. Okay, so I'll just grab my thread that is wayward, pop it underneath. And then I'm going to pop the fabric back in. I'm going to use the higher lift and then drop my needle in and off I go. And there you go. You can see how that is now sitting perfectly flat. That's the top, and then that's the underneath. So it gives a much nicer result. Now, whilst I've got the walking foot on, I'll grab a quilt sandwich and we'll just quilt a straight line. So I'm just going to take that jersey needle back out, pop the standard one back in. Threaded, and there, look, really is simple to change between everything that you need, and don't ever underestimate the right needle for the job, because it makes a huge difference. Let's go down this length. So this walking foot is nice and open in the front, so you can do your nice wide stitches, decorative stitches and everything in there. Actually, let's try one that I like to do for like stitch in the ditch and things like that. So number 61. Obviously you can use it for whatever you like, but and there you go. Apart from me not being able to sew straight, you can see how there was hardly any shift at all in the top layer compared to the bottom layer, although that's not shifting, that's just me not sandwiching them very well. But the tension is nice, the pattern is consistent, both on the bottom and then the top. So whilst I've got the quilt sandwich then, we'll just do a little bit of free motion just to show you that. So I'm gonna pop this walking foot back off and then pop on the free motion. that a final turn. Okay, and then I'm going to drop the feed dogs, which is a lever around the back here, so you can see they've gone down. I'm also going to pop the extension table on, because it just gives me a bit more room. Ooh. And then go back to the standard straight stitch, which is just there. I don't want any stitch length, so I'm just going to take that down to 0, because I'm going to be determining that as I'm sewing. So, grab my needle thread. So I'm just going to drop the presser foot, draw up my bobbin thread, put that underneath. Now I know that there roughly is a good speed for me. Actually, a little bit faster. And there we go. That attempt at some feathers. But you can see the stitches are nice and neat, and also underneath as well. So sticking with some of the feet that come as the quilting edition, I'm just going to show you the 1/4 inch foot. Now in patchwork tops of quilts, 1/4 inch is the most commonly used seam. But this foot is also really good for any top stitching or edge stitching, so that you keep the same distance from the edge of the fabric as you're going along. It kind of takes the guesswork out for you and saves you having to have a separate seam guide. So again, it's just a snap-on foot, so I'm just going to snap that on there. And you'll see it's slightly narrower than the standard foot that we put on. And that's because now with the needle in the centre position, when we're running the fabric along this guide, it's giving us a 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to pop that off so I can pop the feed dogs back up, else we're not going to go anywhere. Might as well keep that on. And then I want to go for about 2.4 stitch length. And then what you want to do is just line the edge of your fabric up with the guide here. Just get my edges together. Ordinarily you'd pin these. And there you go. So you can see you've got a nice consistent 1/4 inch distance from the edge of your fabric. And then the last thing we're going to look at is thicker types of fabric. So I've got some denim. So I'm just going to pop a jeans needle in. And pop the standard foot back on. So I'm going to stick with the straight stitch, and because this is thicker than the cotton and everything that we have been using, I'm just going to adjust that down slightly. I'm going to increase the stitch length slightly. That's better. And that just helps to, because it's thicker, it'll just sit on top of the stitch as we want, not pulling it in or anything if it's too tight. Only slightly, doesn't need to be by very much. And there you go. Nice neat stitch, top and underneath. and a secure seam. So let's double that over and go through 4 layers. No problem at all. Nice and neat and still secure. So let's double it over once more. And this time, because we're going through 8 layers, I'm going to increase the stitch length again. And this time I'm going to reduce the pressure that's on the presser foot. And that's because when I was sewing the last one, I could see that it was starting to pucker under here. And that will help to reduce that. So I'm just going to go back, whoops, 2 numbers. And that's sewn that really well. That's the top. And then the underneath is this line here. And again, it's still really secure. That's not going anywhere. Now this machine comes with 2 years warranty, which can be extended to 5 years if you want to. And there's a card that comes in the box that explains all that to you. Now I hope that gives you a good insight into the capabilities of the Janome M100 QDC to help you decide if it's the right machine for you. If so, head on over to our website and grab yours now. But if you're still not sure, don't forget that we're here at the Sewing Studio. Just pick up the phone, send us an email, pop on live chat. We're more than happy to answer any questions that you may have.